Hey there. So here is today's question. I'd love to hear what other self-pay therapists are doing with their rates during COVID-19 crisis. Are people reducing rates, offering discounts? For how long? Are they considering joining an insurance panel? Thank you. So from what I'm seeing, there are two major factors that determine whether anything is changing rate-wise. The first is how sustainable somebody's practice was before this, and the second is how many of their clients transitioned with them to online therapy. So I'm going to talk through this from the perspective of my group practice, because when looking at someone else's business, I want you to be able to see it from a business perspective rather than your own emotional response within your own business. So think of yourself as the employee of your business and how you want your boss to make these decisions. So my private pay group practice transitioned every single client to online. It's been stable for a really long time. So we were able to open up a few sliding scale slots for people at a rate that allows the employee seeing the client to make her full hourly rate. Because my business is stable, I can afford to not have money from every single session going back into the business, but I can't afford for like half of the sessions to go that way because my practice would have to close. So because we're private pay, my employee can still make a really good living seeing a sustainable number of clients. If we move to insurance, I would have to pay her $25 an hour less, and I would need her to see more people to cover the expenses of the business. Group practice owners already know this, but what I didn't know when I was an employee or a contractor in a group practice is that group practices are shockingly expensive to run. The profit margin is a lot smaller than you think it is. Like if somebody is taking 40% of what you make, for instance, the rent for group practices, just all that stuff ends up adding up to a pretty substantial amount. Okay, so like most people, we're getting fewer calls than usual. We have booked new clients since we started social distancing a month ago, but it's a percentage of what we usually book. So having her see more people at a lower rate, which would need to happen if we took insurance, would still be harder to come by. Right now, I think that the tide will be shifting soon, and we're all going to get more calls than we have in maybe ever. So if you're wanting to get on insurance because it feels right to you from an ethical perspective, the accessibility feels morally aligned with what you want, then research how the insurance panels in your area treat their providers. And if they treat them well and they're consistent, by all means join up. The insurance company in my area that covers over 90% of the state has a history of treating providers pretty terribly, and I find it morally and ethically problematic to be in bed with them, so to speak. So I don't want to subject my employee to potentially not getting paid for 6 months or not getting paid at all. If you're considering insurance because you're afraid no one can afford private pay, and you won't get any clients if you're not insurance based, I want to challenge that. I keep hearing no one can afford anything right now, but that's not true. I'm also seeing a lot of like, oh my gosh, working from home is so different. I don't know if I like it. So like all those work from home people that are still getting their same paycheck absolutely can afford out of pocket. Not all of them, but many of them. So many of the people are getting paid the same amount they always have, and they're spending less because they're not going out. Insurance-based practices aren't going to help the people who lost their jobs in their insurance, which is where a lot of people seem to be coming from. It's like, people are falling on hard times. I really want to be able to support them, so I'm going to take insurance now. But a lot of the people who've fallen on hard times actually need a sliding scale because they don't have insurance anymore. So math is necessary, our favorite thing. Math is necessary. I want you to do the math to determine what you can and can't afford to do in your practice. I want you to think about it as the employee of your practice, whether or not you're set up there that way in a business entity. I want you to come at it from that perspective of how would I want my boss to approach this. I also want you to consider the long view as much as possible. A year from now, will you feel better about having joined an insurance panel or staying private pay? Which would feel better for you when you look back at this time? I don't know the answer to that. Like, I don't think one is right or wrong. It's just a matter of where things settle inside you. And don't come at that from fear. Come at that, imagine that you're full and you're happy in your practice. Which route did you take? Which option feels better? Let me just glance back up at this question, make sure I hit all the points. For how long, if you're offering a discount or a sliding scale, I would say to reevaluate in 3 months. None of us know what the hell's going on, right? So I would reevaluate in 3 months if that person is no longer furloughed, for instance, and they're getting their full paycheck and they can afford to pay you your full rate. Then we want to have a system in place for being able to reevaluate that without just randomly bringing it up in session when they're like, work's going great, to be like, can you pay me more? But if you let them know in 3 months we're going to reevaluate this, then it's already on their radar. All right, so we have support for your business if you need it right now over at abundanceparty.com. We have a ton of free information about your private practice and COVID over at abundancepracticebuilding.com/COVID. And if you have questions you want me to answer on Ask Allison, please shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'm abundance_practice_building. All right, y'all take care.